All right, good morning and good afternoon to everybody who is online. I am welcoming you all to the next webinar on the employability skills. As we wait for more people to join in, we're going to be recapping with a little bit of what we did, etc. But we are also going to start off this webinar today, like I said, with our Independence Day celebrations. And it's important that we acknowledge that today we celebrate our 74th Independence Day. So I hope I'm audible to all you guys. Please tell me yes, no, maybe. So you can open up the chat box. You can also talk if you want to. What I'm going to do is this morning we're going to be playing the national anthem this morning. So we're going to have the first few minutes. We're going to be talking. We're going to just allow an instrumental version of our national anthem, the Pride of India. I think we have one of the very beautifully designed and composed national anthems in the world. So I think I'm going to start playing the A.R. Rahman's version of the national anthem of different artists this morning, and we'd start with the instrumental version. And then when the actual national anthem begins, I would like for all of us to stand and sing the national anthem together. So that's the plan for today. So I'm waiting for more people to join, and let's hope they do. So the national anthem is an instrumental mode right now, and it's important to acknowledge how we have progressed as a country and what we have done in India for this last 74 years and what we have in store for us in the future. Yeah. So we as the generation the younger generation is going to form the future of this country. And it is important for us to understand where we stand on a lot of issues, right? So the first half, like I said today, is going to be the instrumental version where we talk about our country. And when the national anthem begins, I would request for all of you to probably be on video, and we could stand as we can sing the national anthem together. So if you have any memories, any childhood memories of how you celebrated the Independence Day, either in India or outside India, you're welcome to share with us in the chat box as we reminisce the fact that hundreds and thousands of people died to get independence for our country. All right, I would like for all of you, if you're on video, you could switch on your video and we could stand together as we sing the national anthem. And I would request you to stand up for the next 2 minutes as we sing the national anthem. Please respect our country. All right. So thank you everybody for honoring our national anthem, our country, and the brave people that gave us our independence. And today we are a free country because of the many, many people that shed their blood and because of what we see of 74 years of independence that we celebrate today as a free nation. All right, so without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this morning's webinar because most of the people are, I think, already online. Once again, guys, we have less number of people on the registrations today. So what we're going to do is we can open up the chat box, on the side, and we can also have you speak if you want to. You can just raise your hand, so it'll be easier for us to talk and interact. So if you have any questions, and if you find anything that you need to understand, you need to ask a question, you want to stop me, we have the freedom to do that because we have about less than 20 people or 25 people this morning. All right. So first of all, thank you for registering for the webinar, and I'm sure you saw value in the last time as to what we discussed, and that's why for a lot of you who've come in here, once again, thank you for that. And if you have seen some of the things that we've discussed last time, it's going to cover a few points of what we spoke the last time. And what we're going to do is talk about what is important in terms of your preparation for your interview, pre-interview, after interview, and CV and things like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll also tell you what you'll be getting after the webinar, because we said you'll be getting a handbook and things like that. So we're going to cover a lot of points. Now, before we start, for those of you who just joined in, too bad you guys missed out on the Independence Day celebration. It's important to be on time. Guys, if you've joined in just later, remember that one of the most important things is to be on time. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, that if you're not on time, you will lose out on a lot of things. Time is money, all right? And time is so much more in life. And if you're 10 minutes late, like you are for today in an interview, I don't think I'll be the one who would want to hire you, because I don't think you value time, right? Unless, of course, you have a great reason, which we spoke about the other day. So let's dive into a little bit of a recap. If you're welcome to talk, we are welcome to ask questions about the last time before we start. Some of the people have new people who registered for the second session of our series. So it's nice always to have a little bit of a recap. So I always believe that sessions should help you to recap so you can understand what exactly we spoke the last time and connect it to what we will be speaking about in today, right? So anybody just go for it. Tell us what you remember from the last time that we spoke about, or what did we discuss, etc., etc. So we can kickstart the conversation today, this morning. Anybody?
I can begin with.
Hi, Akash. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Immanuel. So
Thank
you
you.
said the things to which are essential
Yeah.
for applying a job are communication skills,
Right.
networking skills,
Right.
and then problem solving.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, and then we need to be resilient and always never giving up.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
flexibility and adaptability.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Akash. Anything else you want to add to it? All right. Thank you, Akash. We spoke about that. We spoke about being flexible. We spoke about being adaptable. We spoke about how to build resilience in a world where you're finding it difficult to get jobs. We spoke about a lot of things like that, right? So great. So what else can anybody else tell us what else we spoke about? Or you want to take the baton out from Akash and tell us what did you understand? Or we spoke about flexibility. We spoke a lot about preparing for interviews and why is it important, etc., etc. So go ahead. Remember communication skills, right? And there's no right answer, wrong answer. You guys, this is your platform. So what I'm telling you is just interact. It's important to interact. Improve your self-confidence. Put yourself out there. Don't care about the people who judge you. Don't care about people who tell you that, oh, your English is not all right, so it's okay, you shouldn't be talking. Or no, don't care about all of that. This platform is for you to improve yourself, to enable you, to empower you. So you need to talk. You need to tell. You need to interact. You need to improve your self-confidence. And if you don't improve your self-confidence, it's going to be very hard for you to face an interview, right? So when you kickstart a conversation, what can we do for an interview? So how do I push myself to talk? It's not easy to talk, right, in front of everybody. It's not easy to talk. So let's imagine if you were sitting in an interview, what would you be talking about? Yes, Mantra. Using of a professional language.
Having a positive mindset.
Okay. Yes,
तो
please.
डायरेक्ट उसमें पासवर्ड नहीं लगा
Guys, if you're not talking, please mute yourself. Okay. Anybody else? Professional language rather than being informal to your authorities. Yes, like, hi bro, hello guys. You don't do that when you go for an interview in a formal atmosphere. Unless you're applying to a place where the culture is extremely casual, then yes. But otherwise, the use of professional and formal language is very, very important when you write for a job application, when you speak to authorities, when you call up somebody and talk to them about it. It's very important to understand. And always introduce yourself, right? Introduce yourself. It's very important to say this is, and please don't use words like myself, Immanuel, right? That's wrong English. So you always say, I call myself Immanuel. So a lot of us make this mistake. We say myself before we start introducing ourselves. No, don't do that. Myself, Immanuel does not make any sense. It's absolutely wrong grammar, right? So when you want to introduce yourself, please say, I call myself Immanuel, or my name is Immanuel. So that's how you introduce yourself when you speak to Yes, Amartya, communication skills, networking skills. Networking skills is how do you connect with people? How do how do you stand out in terms of connecting people? What do you need to connect with people? And to connect with people, you need to have better communication skills, right? And that's important. So we spoke about that. Decision-making skills. Today's employers, they look for people who want to make decisions very fast, right? They don't want someone who's dependent on them all the time. So we spoke about that as well. Yes. Adversity quotient. Thank you, Preeti. Very good. We spoke about AQ. Fantastic. That's an outstanding point. It's about how people measure your resilience, which is what Akash told us this morning as well. Adversity quotient is how can I face an adversity, right? And it is awesome to see that how people sit in our webinars and get inspired. For example, this week, I think Batul is online with us, and she wrote a blog on building resilience. And one of the things that she drew inspirations was from the webinars that she attended with us. So the point I'm trying to say is adversity quotient or resilience comes over, over a period of time when you go through certain experiences, when you know that you have to face certain situations. So how do I face that adversity? And people people when they hire you, they're looking for you as somebody who can face those situations, right? So that's important. Right, what else? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share screen with you for today's presentation. So because we already did a little bit of the recap right now. Okay. So can you guys see the screens? So see the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, great. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what we're going to talk about. Okay, so that's the agenda for today. Yeah. So we've got the recap. We already finished that. We're going to talk about preparing for an interview from the surface of it. Yes. We're going to talk about what is required from a superficial point of view. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about preparing for an interview, the in-depth analysis, right? When you prepare for an interview, what goes more than just about grooming yourself or just about, preparing the regular preparation. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Tackling those difficult questions, some of the common questions. What I've done together today is I've put some of the common questions that interviewers ask you. And what are those difficult questions that interviewers ask you, right? And then we're going to talk about the small things that matter. I always tell people that don't neglect the small things that matter, because some of the small things might not be something that you notice, but there'll be something that other people are noticing in you. So do not neglect that small things at any point, because that becomes a big, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. So people often notice. So the eye for detail is very important. Then we said the art of crafting your resume. So then today we'll focus on what takes to the resume. Now, a lot of people did not register. You know what is the reason? Because they said all of that is available on Google, right? And why do we need it? And or we already know this part. I don't think it's going to be useful for us. So there are a lot of people who think that, if you look at Google, you're going to get all the answers. The point is, yes, you have those answers on Google, but do you know how to execute them? Right? Now, this is the problem with today's generation. You think Google is going to be, or rather we think Google is going to be the answer to every damn question out there. Sorry, it's not true to a very large extent. And you need to understand that what you see is great, you get information, but how can you execute that? How can you do it? How can you do it without the help of anybody? So these kind of webinars will help you to understand what you can do without the help of Google, but just through this by talking to someone, right? So we're going to talk about the job interview preparation. Once again, we'll go through that. We'll talk about the sample resume. We'll talk about assessments and psychometric tests. Now, this is something that not everybody knows. There are some assessments and psychometric tests. So if you're applying for certain positions in your job, in your career, you will be going through certain assessments. And we'll tell you what assessment centers are, what are psychometric tests, etc. We'll also talk about what do you do after the interview, right? Many times people tell you what you need to do, how to go for an interview, but sometimes what do you do after the interview? That's important too. We'll touch upon a little bit of FAQs, like frequently asked questions, and then we go on to say a vote of thanks, whatever. So that's going to be today's agenda, right? So we already finished the recap. We'll dive into preparing for the interview from the surface of it. Okay, that means what are the superficial things that matter when you prepare for an interview, right? Many times we neglect those small things that matter and we're going to talk about that. So the first one is working on your presentability and grooming. We already covered this point in the previous session as well, right? Some of us think that it's not important to present yourself very well. Some of us think, oh, it's okay if I don't wear a good attire. No, it's not. And it is counted in many times, right? Now it depends. Now if you're not going to an industry where you're facing people every day or you're going to face customers every day, then maybe you will be given a chance. But it's very important to tell people that I care to take care of myself. I want to take care of myself, the way I look, excuse me, the way I present. Because remember, when you work for a company, you represent the brand of the company. You represent their organization, right? So they don't want you to look in a fashion that is not that a culture of their place. So they will always look at how how much time you've taken to dress up or how well you've presented yourself in an interview. Especially if you're going for a formal interview, you need to understand that these are very, very important things in what you do. Okay. Then we move on to how well do you know about the company you're visiting? Many times, you would have seen this on Google. We spoke about this the last time as well. How well do you know about the company? What is the extent to which you can go do some research? Let me ask you something. It's so difficult today for people to even log in and find out what the company does. Now, when I interview candidates and I ask them, do you know what our organization does? Yeah, I know you're doing this. Yeah, I saw the website. I mean, you're applying for a job and you're applying for a position probably that is very key to the organization. Now, you don't know what the organization does. I mean, is that all you could do? You couldn't spend 10 minutes before the interview to catch up on what this company does, right? You just dive into it. We're not dwelling in that kind of a world anymore, right? Back 20 years ago, probably when a generation before us were, our parents or our older uncles and aunties and brothers and sisters appeared for interviews, it's probably back then, you didn't have the access to find out many things about a company. But today, there's everything. I mean, there's everything out there for you to analyze which company you are going to, especially if you're going to a larger size company. If you're going to a smaller size company, you're going to have to find out through networking, okay? So always ensure that you find out as much as possible about the company. There are many times that you probably are applying for a job that you don't want to get into, or you're probably going to a company that you don't want to get into. So that's important. I told you this the last time as well. Social media management, right? What do you put on your social media accounts? It is going to be measured by people, right? People, when you go for an interview, there are many chances. 75% to 80% of recruiters have said that they will visit your social media channels, okay? And this is a survey. I don't have the reference with me right now, but I remember reading this, a year or two ago, that people visit your social media accounts. Either you completely control your social media accounts by having privacy. You go into your Instagram, you go into your Facebook and have your privacy so nobody gets to know what you're doing outside other than your friends. Or if you've kept your accounts open, you need to be very, very careful about who is seeing what, right? People don't want to hire somebody who's not a cultural fit. I mean, if you're drinking and partying somewhere and you have your semi-nude pictures on your Instagram or on your social media, it just says that you're frivolous, right? That means you're not very serious about probably, about things. And it gives me an impression that you are okay to probably go bare all the time. So I probably tend to judge you even if I don't want to as a recruiter, right? So does that send out a good opinion about you? If you are in the Middle East or in India, may not be, because there is a cultural aspect to the way people look, the way people's mindsets are shaped. It's not because you're wrong. It's just because you're probably sending out the wrong message. That's all. So it's only because people's mindsets are probably not really fine-tuned to your mindset or to what you think is right. So I was having this conversation with a couple of people, and, oh, I don't care about how I look, or I don't care about what I do on my social media because people will judge me anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you're applying for a job, you probably don't want to be judged, right? And that's important. So that's what I tell people, that you need to understand that it's not okay to keep your social media accounts open. And one thing I'll tell you is keep your LinkedIn very professional, right? Try to activate on your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional network. So if you have interned somewhere, if you have worked somewhere, you've worked on a project, you worked on an assignment, make your LinkedIn profile look very good. So that if I Google you out, or if I go on LinkedIn and check you out, I can say, okay, this person is taking his career or her career very seriously. Have a professional photograph on your LinkedIn, right? You don't have to have a beachside photograph on your LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is not meant for that. The challenge with a lot of us is we don't understand what social media is all about, right? I have people modeling on bikes on LinkedIn, wearing their sunglasses on LinkedIn. I'm not hiring you for being a model. If I am, then probably great. But if I'm not, then you shouldn't be doing that on LinkedIn. You need to know exactly how to pose yourself on LinkedIn and what kind of photographs you put on LinkedIn, right? Now, it's very important to do that. Okay, so what's next? Have you tried to find reviews? Now, always ensure that when you go online and research about the company, you could also find reviews. You can go to Google reviews, you can go to Facebook reviews of a company to see what people have said. You have recruiters doing reviews of companies as well, right? A lot of recruiters have been doing surveys of companies from the people who are working in that company. So you can go to SurveyMonkey, where you can find out some surveys about organizations. You can go to Bait, which is a Middle Eastern job website, BAYT, which I spoke to you in the last time, right? And Bait gives you company reviews as well. And you can connect to professionals who are working in that company to find out what kind of an organization you are applying for. Because many times, if you end up in the wrong company, or if you end up in the wrong job, you're not going to like it. So maybe, just maybe, you want to review the fact that, okay, let me go ahead and check what's online, or what are the company reviews like. So these are some of the things that are important, that stand out from the face of it. Now, what's the last thing that we have? Did you go through your CV, right? Many times, the people who come for the interview have not gone through their own CVs properly. Then when you ask them a question from their CV, they kind of stutter and stammer. Oh, okay, okay, I'm a people person. What does that mean, right? No, I can't copy and paste from my friend's CV. Come on. I mean, that's not all right. And many instances, you would have hired somebody to do your CV. For all you know, you're going to go to a professional recruitment company. Okay, do my CV for $10 or 1,000 rupees or whatever that you're paying them, and then you get the CV done. And you couldn't care less to find out what's there inside your CV, because you looked at it, it's like, wow, my CV looks great. Now let me go for the job interview. And then the interviewer asks you questions like, okay, so what do you mean by a people person? And then there you're looking at, oh, that was actually written by the person who designed my CV. Are you going to say that? I mean, I've had candidates who do that, right? So go through your CV word by word, know what is there inside, right? And that's important, right? So that it is important for you to understand what is written in the CV. Yes, Mantra, do you have a question? You raised your hand. Okay.
Yes, I've typed it out. I've typed out my question.
Let me get the chat box, because
Yeah.
it keeps going away, and that's my problem. Okay, I can't seem to find the chat box right now. Anyway, ask me, Mantra, you can ask your question now. I'm not able to find the chat box immediately. I'm going to have to check it out. Yeah, okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, okay. How far will my personal life be affected by my professional life? Don't you feel that superiors cannot be judging me by what I post on my social media?
Yeah.
Okay. Your personal life will get affected by your professional life. The one thing that I always tell people is keep your professional life and your personal life separate, right?
Yeah, right.
Today's generation is the fact that we don't draw lines between our professional and personal life. You think the lines are very blurred. You think that everybody's going to be cool like your friends out there in college and universities. No, it's not. When you go into your workplaces, there's a huge generation gap, right? You're probably going to be reporting to people who are 10 years older than you, or 20 years older than you, or even 30 years older than you, or your boss's boss might not be as cool as you think you want them to be. So there are many situations that you will be facing where this whole mindset of a generation gap will be there. So I have people around me who think that it's extremely cool to, put up pictures of kissing your boyfriend or girlfriend online on social media and for your colleagues to see that.
Correct.
Now, do you really think that's something that people don't judge you on? Do you think people don't gossip about it in the company or around you? They do, right? They do, right? And from an HR perspective, I always tell people, keep your personal life personal. Nobody needs to know what happened in your personal life unless I ask for it, right?
Yeah.
Adding your colleagues on social media, if you're adding your colleagues on LinkedIn, be very careful what you're sharing, because you never know what people are judging you on. You might have done something on social media, and tomorrow if some incident at work happens, people will connect the two and start judging you on that.
Correct. Yeah.
So exactly. So you need to be very careful about what you share on social media. Keep it private, okay? And it will affect your professional life. And see, at the end of the day, we're all the same people, whether we are with our friends or whether we're at work. There is a side of us that's going to still come up. So we have to be very careful what side of you want to share with the people that you work with, because not everybody who is very nice to you at work is actually a nice person. And I tell this to everybody. If you think that since somebody is laughing with you and talking to you and they're treating you very well at work, no, they're not. Don't ever get carried away by that. Always be on your guard. You never know when somebody's going behind your back and saying something about you, to your colleagues, to your peers, to your boss, to the management. It could be anywhere. So it's very important that you treat your professional life with a pinch of salt. Just because somebody's cool with you and says, oh, let's hang out over the weekend, it does not mean that the person is going to be the best friend of you for the rest of your life. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? There are chances you can make friends at work. I'm not saying no. We all have those chances to make friends at work. But do you trust them? Do you want to trust them? That's a big question. Right? So that's important. So let me get back to the presentation. Thanks. No problem. Let's get back to the presentation now. Okay. So what you see over here is preparing for an interview, the in-depth analysis. What is a job description, right? Has anybody heard what a job description is before? Do you know what a job description is? Anybody?
What jobs are available in what position?
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Aditya here. So job description is basically the description of your job. It's very simple as that. So what is that you're going to handle? What is your job structure? What is the task that you would be asked to do, etc.
Okay. So a job description is nothing but, thank you, Aditya. Akash, thank you for that. A job description is nothing but a clear view or an outline of what is expected from you at work, right? It will tell you about the skills. It will tell you about the, of what is expected from you in your job role. Who will you be reporting into? What are the kind of responsibilities you will be handling? What are the skills required in your position? And what we do as recruiters, we match your job description and then we advertise the position. So when you apply for a particular position, and if you think it's an administrative position or any position, just check out for the job description. A reputed company will always roll out a job description. A reputed company will always roll out a job description. So the company says, no, it's okay. We know what you're supposed to do. Just come in on. That means you know that the company is already not being very professional. So these are nuances that give you an idea about what the company is. So you need to understand that this is important. So what do you look for in a job description? Why is it important? A job description gives you about a 75% of an idea of what your job is going to look like inside the company, right? So that's important. And from that perspective, you need to understand that if you don't have a job description, it's a little bit of a confusion as to what you're expected to do. That's why it's important. It gives you, it provides it creates an ambiguous situation where you're not clear about what is expected from you. Your boss tells you, okay, do this, do that. You end up doing a lot of things and you ask yourself, what was I hired for and what am I doing? And this happens to a lot of people. Okay. And why does that happen? Because you've not gone through your job description. Now, a job description is a very corporate thing. Now, if you're not working in the corporate sector, you're working for probably medicine or charity or NGO or any of the non-corporate sectors, then you might not have this outlined all the time. But always ask people, what are you expected to do in your role? Don't just take up a job because you're required to do it. Take it up, but ask the person or ask your interviewer what is expected and have that in writing all the time. It's important to have it in writing. It's important you sign a job description, not just a contractual agreement or an employment offer, right? So that is, if you're not able to do that, then there is a problem, because what happens then is it becomes very ambiguous as to what is expected from you and you're lost. So, okay, so what is the next thing? What do you have to look out in the job description? So this is what you've got to look out in the job description. The number one thing that I have here is keywords. What are the keywords? Pick up the keywords. Does your CV and the job description have any resemblance to? You need to figure out if what is written in the job description, are there any words that relate to what you've written down in your CV as to what you can do, right? So for example, if you say, my strength is communication skills. If the job description says that communication skills is important in this particular job, then that means you have it in you, right? So you got to figure out, using the job description, you got to figure out what exactly is there, and do you possess those skills, and are you willing to do that particular job using those skills, right? Who will you be reporting to? This is another thing we all often have a problem with, right? I don't know who I should be reporting to, especially if you're working in the Middle East or if you're working for a family business. You know what happens is that many times you don't have one boss, you'll have more than one boss, and you're like, this person will tell you one thing to do, the other person will come and tell you another thing to do, and there you're sitting, oh my God, now what do I do? Do I listen to this person or do I listen to that person? And then you're confused in your mind. So it's very important for you to clear out, right, who you're reporting to. Because at the end of the day, if you are not somebody who's very experienced in the corporate world or in your job, if you're a fresher or if you've got like less experience, you're going to experience the challenge of who you will report to, and then that becomes a problem. It demoralizes you. You don't feel very comfortable working. You don't feel very positive. So it's important for you to understand who will you be reporting to, and the job description needs to tell that. Or you need to figure out when you go for an interview who you will be reporting to. That's a question you got to ask definitely when you go for a job interview, right? And sometimes I tell I tell candidates, don't select the company, select the boss, right? Because even if you work for a bad company, but if you have a good boss, it's important for you. People don't leave jobs because they're unhappy with the organization. 90%, 80 to 90% of us change jobs. We leave jobs because we don't like the person who is working above us, right? And that's true. And that's true by all surveys. You don't necessarily change jobs because of money. You don't necessarily change jobs because you don't like just the company, but many times you don't like the person who is above you, and that's the problem. And then it gets personal and then whatever. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's important for you to find out who you will be working with, who your colleagues will be, who your peers will be, if you are a leader, who will be reporting into you and who you will be reporting into, right? So because a company works with a structure, and that's important for you to know. Does the organization look professional to you? What is professionalism, right? When somebody advertises a job and when you apply, you get a reply back. Okay, the first sign is, okay, you get a response. Either it's an automated response or it's a manual response. At least you know somebody responded to you. So there's some level of professionalism, right? And within 2 weeks, they write back to you and tell you whether your CV was shortlisted or not. That is professionalism, right? You get a call back, that is professionalism. So the way people talk, that is professionalism. Funnily, what happened, I'll tell you an experience that I had a few years ago. It's a very embarrassing situation to be in. So what happened was there was a friend of mine who had applied for a job, and we were both looking to apply for the same job because we knew the job was advertised out there. But I got to know that through many other people, but I didn't know the interviews had started. So what happened was when he told me about this, I also went and applied for the job. Now, the interviewer who called us both for the interview happened to call me and address his name and call him and tell my name, and they sent out the wrong emails to, for coming in for the interview, and they sent that, and they asked us to come at the same time. Now, what does this signify about an organization, right? It's a big company. You have a human resources department, but the level of unprofessionalism, the lack of eye for detail in the recruitment is bizarre. You don't want to end up in a place like that, right? This happened at a time when I was actually looking for a job and I was unemployed at that time. So I still gave it a thought that I might take up the job because I was desperate, right? But in an ideal situation, it speaks volumes about a company. I would not want to join a company like that, right? So who are the people you'll be working with? It's important to understand. I already spoke about that. Now, tackling the difficult questions. So I'm going to give you a little bit of idea how to tackle some of your difficult questions during the interview process. So one of the questions they ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? What are the possible answers you can give in this situation? Any thoughts? Where do you see yourself in the 5 years? I ask myself, oh my God, where, if you had asked this question in 2015, 2020 was like a berserk, right? I mean, I had this meme going around everywhere, and everybody who answered this question, where do you see yourself 5 years, got this answer wrong because nobody knew where we were in 2020. So it was a funny meme. But people ask these kind of questions, right? Why do you think they ask these questions? And what kind of answers can we give when these questions are asked you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Today's generation don't know what they're doing in the next 5 days. Oh, forget the next 5 years, right? So that's how I feel. Don't get me wrong. I'm also trying to tell you the reality of everything that I see around me. And then we talk about 5 years. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 months or 5 days or 5 weeks. And here this interview was asking me about 5 years. Oh, I want to be sitting in your seat. This is some of the questions, some of the way that people answer. And I'm like, okay, great. But it's not about what you say. It's about how you say it to the interviewer, right? It's very important the way you put things across. So any first thoughts? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? You can type it out in the chat box. If I were your interviewer and I was asking you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What kind of answer would you be giving me? Let's do a role play now. What kind of answers would you be giving me? Go for it, guys. Anybody? Okay. Looks like people don't know how to answer that question. Okay. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What is the interviewer trying to judge out here? The interviewer is trying to judge to see how stable you are. Okay. Do you have a plan? Okay. Do you have a plan? Do you have a career goal? Do you see yourself in the same line of job that you've applied for today? Or are you looking for a job because you want to cover your CV? Or are you looking for a stopgap arrangement? So you have to be very careful when you're tackling this question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? You have to come across as like somebody who has got it right and who can probably give more clear answers to things that are required, right? And I can see that some of you are actually taking notes. So what I'm thinking right now is we have prepared a handbook for you, and the handbook has got titles in it, and it's got space for you to probably take some notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably share the handbook with you. So you can take down notes directly. If you have, this is a Word document. So if you have a Word on your laptop, then it'll be good for you to take down this document and you can take on the notes. Just give me a second. Okay, on the chat box is your handbook, which will be shown to you in just a minute, right? So you can download the handbook and make direct notes on it. You can type your notes, you can use your notepad, whatever, and you can make the notes as we speak about each of these topics in case you've made separate notes together. The document is downloading. Shambhavi, you say to get promotion, climb the corporate ladder. Yes, to get a promotion and climb the corporate ladder. But trust me, it's very, very challenging to be there. So what are you going to say? So you say the way you word it, right? So the way you tell your interviewer should be like, I see myself growing in this company. If I were to get the right role, and if I were to get all the tools and that are required for me to perform, I would try to maximize my potential and deliver my best, right? Out here, people are trying to see loyalty. They're trying to see stability. Okay, 5 years is a long time. Who knows what happens after 5 years? We don't really know. You're probably not even going to be there for even the next 2 years. But how do you impress the interviewer? That's important. Okay, so I think the document is now downloaded. Employability skills, we call that the handbook. You can download it from your computers, from your phones, and you can use that to make notes, guys. So employability skills handbook is there out for you, which we were supposed to send you post the webinar. We've already given you the handbook. Now you have, in the handbook, you have spaces for each of the titles we've designed and we're talking about right now. So the one thing I don't do to people is I don't like to spoon feed everybody, right? So you're going to have to make notes for yourself. If you think it's important, you're going to get the presentation, you're going to get the handbook, but you're not going to get everything that we're going to be speaking about right now. So you either make notes or you take the webinar recording. So either of which, we'll be sending you the webinar recording as well in the next couple of days, but this is what it is. So what's next? Why should we hire you over 100 candidates, right? This is another question that people ask you. Oh, why should we hire you? We've had like 10 other applicants or 100 other applicants. Why should we hire you? So what is special about you? Think about this, right? When you go for an interview, what are you selling? You're selling yourself. Okay, you're selling yourself. Your CV is like the product label that tells you what this product comes with. So if you want to sell a product, what would you do? How would you, we call this as the USP in selling. That means unique selling proposition, right? If you're in sales, you'll understand that. What is special about you? Talk about that. Don't say the common things. I am a people person. I have good communication skills. I have loyalty. Because this is what everybody else says. So what can I say different from what the other person says, right? Now, this is very, very important to understand what are the things that I can say. So you have to word yourself, right? You have to say, I am a person who's given into commitment. I am not afraid of committing. I don't get scared of situations. I always like challenges. So even if there is a challenge, I don't want to run away from those challenges. I want to be there. I want to be there for the company. Now imagine when you tell these kind of things to the recruiter, people get impressed by these things. I would be super impressed if someone gave me these answers, right? So when you are going for an interview, you need to understand that you need that job. You're going for that interview not because you fantasize being inside an interview, right? But because you wanted to go and apply for that job. You took the pains to do it. So show them that you need the job, but not desperately. And this is where you need to understand. You don't need to go out of your reach and say, oh, I need this job and my life revolves around it. No. But you can tell them that I'm given into commitment and I ensure that I will give my best, right? And people are trying to look at different things, working hours. A lot of people say, oh, I'm working from 8 to 5 and 9 to 6. And after that, I'm giving my personal time to the company. Recently in a training session, one person said this, I'm giving my time after 5 o'clock in the evening. I said, really? Oh, what a big favor you're doing to the organization, right? I don't want to hear that. Your time is not a different time from the company's time. That's not how we see it, right? If you're giving your time, I couldn't care less. I want the work done. If no, you can spend 10 hours, you can spend 10 minutes, you can spend 100 hours. I couldn't care less, but the work needs to be done the way it needs to be done and the time it takes. So the point I'm trying to say is nobody's going to tell you, hey, have a personal day today. Today you can take off and sit at home. I've not had a single boss tell me in my entire life and career of 15 years, take a personal day and sit at home today. Yes, I'm an HR guy. I think people need personal days. I think sometimes we need to take our mind off. And I tell that to my team, my own team. But my bosses have never been so gracious. So don't expect everyone to tell you, hey, take a personal day and sit at home. I think you're not doing all right today. This is great, but that does not happen in reality. And if I tell you that it happens and you can expect that, I am lying to you. And I will not lie to you, right? Because that's not what leaders do today. If you get a leader like that, wow, splendid. But I don't think that's a dream. That's a dream come true. Okay. So people ask you, why did you leave your previous employer? Then you're going to tell them reasons. Never talk ill about your previous employers. It's very important for you to understand that you don't talk ill about your previous employers. You can tell them the truth, because sometimes people ask you for gossip, right? Like when I was interviewed, my CEO asked me, so why did you leave this organization before? It's supposed to be such a big organization. I was working for the largest retail conglomerate in the Middle East, all right, with about franchises in about 28 countries and 100,000 employees. So that's the kind of organization I was working for. And they asked me, why are you leaving an organization like this? And I had to tell them the truth. But I told them the way that I'm not going to put anybody down. So remember that if you can put this company down, your employer is thinking you can talk about our company bad in the future. So you might lose out on an opportunity. These are all old tricks. You might be knowing this already. So be very, very diplomatic in your answer. You can tell them the truth, but tell them, this is what happened, and I felt like I was a misfit. Use words like that. Use words like, don't say, oh, I didn't like the boss, I didn't like the company, I didn't like that. They're not looking for that, because no company is ideal, no job is ideal, no boss is ideal. When you join a company, when you are going there, you go with expectations, and trust me, not all your expectations are going to be fulfilled, but not running away is the key. Okay, and I'm telling this out of experience, obviously, right? Because I've done these mistakes when I was young too. Okay, so the next thing is there is a gap in your CV. What happened? What were you doing in this time? Between 2014 and 2015, what were you doing? Between 2018 and 2019, you don't have something on your CV. So the employer is trying to check, what were you doing at that time? Did you take up an assignment? Did you do a project? Were you interning somewhere? Did you stop your job for studying something else? Or why did the previous employer ask you to leave, and why did you not get a job? Right? These are things that are people trying to test waters. They're trying to find out what is it that you did in the gap. So be very careful. In fact, be honest about what you did. And whenever you have a gap in your CV, try to be very honest about what happened. Because it's important that you be honest, because many times when you're dishonest, and if they get to know at a later stage, during the interview process, your candidature will be canceled and they will not even tell you that many times. Okay, so it's important. Have you applied in other places too? So these are another questions. Oh, so you're here. So have you applied in other places? Okay, yeah, so I have applied there or here. So don't give them these kind of answers, because what happens is, if you've applied for another place and you're deciding on taking up another job and not this particular job, this employer will offer you, and if you reject the offer, you'll probably be blacklisted. So you probably will never get a chance to work with them again, right? I'm not talking about all companies, but there are many people who do that, because you don't want to go for an interview, don't want to accept an offer and then reject it. That's why they always ask you this question: have you applied in other places too? So answer the question in utmost honesty. Okay. Are you flexible working long hours, right? This is a question that everybody asks. So the point is, yeah, I am flexible to stretch after 5 or 6 o'clock, but I'm giving my personal time to this company. So what a big favor am I going to be doing for this company? So are you paying me overtime? Many people ask this question. Do you pay overtime? I mean, is that a question you ask when you go for a job interview? I don't think this overtime policy is not applicable for all jobs. In fact, for most jobs, right? Jobs that come with wages are definitely there. If you're working in hospitals, or if you're working in a lower catered job in the hospitality or any other wage industry, maybe overtime is applicable. Yes, it needs to be done, but not all companies pay overtime. And as you grow up in your career, nobody cares how many hours you put in, right? So you're not going to get overtime. Being a manager, you never get an overtime. There's nothing called overtime for people who are leaders or managers or directors, because any time is just overtime. So you just have to work when the company is expected to get you on work. I get calls at 10:30 in the night. Now I speak for half an hour on regarding my job. Now, can I go and tell my boss, yesterday I spoke for half an hour, so can I go half an hour early today? No, doesn't work. So remember that flexible, here people are trying to ask you, are you flexible? But yes, you tell them, yes, I'm flexible, but I want to add value in those long working hours. I don't want to spend hours in my table just wanting to prove that I'm there in the office just because I have to prove my presence, but I'm going to add value to this organization. These are the things that interviewers want to listen to when you're going for an interview, right? So this is another thing that people ask. I think we're going to exceed today's time a little bit, but I already told you last time we might go this for 1.5 hours. So please keep yourself prepared in case you want to leave exactly at 10:30. You're welcome to do that, or exactly at probably 1 p.m. your time. So you can do that. What keeps you going and what ticks you off? So people are here. People ask you, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What keeps you going? What is it that you don't like to? What is it that you get bogged down by? Again, they're trying to find out how well do you handle stress, right? So they're going to ask you, what is the strength? What are your weaknesses? Or how do you react when something does not go according to the way in the work? Do you get frustrated? Are you going to take a personal day off because yesterday did not go well? No, I don't want people who think that resilience is not a part of your thing. I will be very careful. I want people who are more stronger, to more positive in their work, right? So that's the thing. So what keeps you going on? So you need to tell challenges, right? Like for me, what keeps me going on is new challenges, new projects. Monotony does not go very well with me. I don't like doing the same thing every day. And that's why I took up a job like this. I had talent, and every day is a different day in my job. Not one single day is the same day. Not even one single day is the same day. So that made my job extremely interesting. So for me, I took up a job, and alhamdulillah, by God's grace, excuse me, I got a job in a place that I liked, in the job or the line of work that I wanted to work in. So it does not give me monotony. It gives me variety with what I do, and I play around, right? So what's the next thing? What are your strengths and weaknesses? We already addressed that. If you want, in the future, we might be doing something on your personality. So I'll teach you how to do a SWOT analysis, right? You can Google that. It's called SWOT analysis, SWOT. How to do a strengths, weakness, opportunity, threats, right? That's important. I can't spend a lot of time on that because we might run short on time, but analyze your strengths and weaknesses, and always show your weaknesses as potentially something that is positive, right? So what are your weaknesses? So for me, my weaknesses is I have an OCD to perfection, right? I tell people that. I mean, for me, if there is a spelling mistake in my presentation, I have a problem with it. I can't present it. So I need to correct it. So I have an OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, to make something correct all the time, right? And it's probably not a good habit, but if you're at work, your employer will be impressed that you want to make everything correct, right? But at the same time, don't get bogged down and spend too much time on making things correct, because you might end up wasting your time. So there's got to be a balance in that, right? How to do that? Not everything requires equal importance. So what is the priority? And that's something you need to understand, right? So then you go into behavioral kind of questions. Have you overcome any difficult situations in your previous jobs, right? What is the most difficult situation? My boss told me not to have coffee in my table. What a great situation you have handled, right? So I'm telling you, these are answers people give in interviews. Okay, I'm not even joking. So, and I had a conflict with my boss because I wanted to have coffee in my desk, or I wanted to have tea in my desk, and we had an argument, and I left the job. Wow, is that something you want to deal with? And if you can't deal with that difficult situation, do I really want to hire you in a place where you can't deal with difficult situations? Maybe not. So when you have talking about difficult situations, talk about projects, talk about assignments that you've taken up, talk about the challenges that you've overcome, talk about conflicts, how you overcome differences with your colleagues, how you had a conflict with somebody senior, somebody junior, and somebody at the peer level, and how did you overcome that? That's important, right? So how do you overcome work pressure? How to overcome work pressure? Rather, there's a spelling mistake there. Right? How to overcome work pressure. What is work pressure? So people think that if you extend even for 2 hours, and if your boss calls you on a weekend, it's a work pressure. No, it's not. That's only the fundamentals of work pressure. The work pressure means you deliver on time. You do what is given to you. If a report, you're working on a report, you give it on time. You give it without mistakes. And when it is, you're pulled up for it. And there's a lot about work pressure. And how to handle pressure comes with a lot of experience. But for that, you need to build mental resilience. So it's all interconnected. You don't give up so easily, right? Go with a positive mindset. Yesterday was a bad day. Do I think about it again every day and go to work every day with the same thought, the same mindset? Because then it does not affect the people around me. It affects me more. The person who made you feel bad, the person who gave you that, who put you down, who humiliated you, is probably laughing and, having a good time or out there, but you're the one who's sitting there and thinking, oh my God, what a bad day it was yesterday. This happens many times at work and our personal lives. Always remember that the force within you is far greater than the force from the outside. Nobody can decide how you think unless you decide to think negative. So my sessions on webinars are not just about what the topic is. I also empower people to try to understand what it takes to be out there, right? If you've put yourself out there in difficult situations, talk about those situations, not about a small situation. Talk about in your in your projects? How can you overcome these challenges? All right. So those are some of the things. Small things, big impact. Study the pros and cons of having a job like this. Right? What are the pros? What are the cons? If I take up this job, what are my pros? What are the positives? What are the cons? What are the negatives? What do I have to do? Okay, maybe taking up this job, I have to travel more, right? So it probably comes into your negative column. But by traveling more, what can I utilize my traveling time in? Think about that way, right? So if I'm traveling for half an hour extra, can I do it some way? So you're turning your negatives into your positives. You see what I'm trying to make you see? So every time we have a list, that's funny enough, I don't know if any of you have been through this webinars, but I shared. Many years ago when I started working, we had a colleague in my team who was working very well, but just randomly resigned and left. He was very demoralized and very demotivated. Then one day, my boss and myself, we ended up cleaning his desk, and we found a sheet on his desk. What he had done is, he had done nothing. He actually, he didn't do anything great. What he did was he took probably a sheet of paper, right? And then he folded it into two. He divided the sheet into positives and negatives. On one side, he had written down why I should stay in this job. And the other side, he had written down why I should leave this job, right? And it was so amazing to see, because the points were so clear. Staying in the jobs, I make money, ABC. Then, and what are the negatives? It is demoralizing me. I'm staying away from my family. So the negatives were more than the positives. So over a period of time, he had set his mind. He had already made up his mind to leave, and it was only a matter of time that he would leave the job. And he had done this a few months ago before he had resigned, right? So that kind of gave me so much perspective, that how can we always look at things so objectively? I mean, you need to see what are your positives and negatives. So before you decide on something, I tell this to people, before you decide to break up with someone, before you decide to leave a job, before you decide to, start your own family, before you get married, before you do everything, all important decisions, draw out the positives, draw out the negatives. That's the best way to come to conclusion to a decision. Okay, that's important. So what's the next thing? The next point that we want to share over here, ask yourself if you're looking for a job or a career. What is the difference between a job and a career? A job is something that you take up because you want to work. A career is something that you want to establish in the long term. Okay? So when I started in what line of work I'm doing, I wanted a career. I was very clear about it, right? So if you consistently, I'm going to share my CV with you in this next few minutes. If you consistently see the line of work that I've established has always been very, very consistent with, with the line of work I'm doing. Right. That's important. What's the next thing? They say, don't just choose a job, choose the boss. I already spoke to you about that. Don't show desperation because people are looking for you to be desperate. So when you are desperate, recruiters are looking for you to be desperate. And why? Because recruiters are thinking, okay, if you are desperate, then you're ready to work for a lesser salary. So that's an important thing. So don't show desperation. It's important not to do that. And by that, I mean the words you use. I will do anything for this job. And when you apply for a job, you stop following up every now and then. If you're unemployed, you're constantly thinking about the places that you applied for, and you're constantly following up with them, right? When that happens, then you're showing desperation. And also the anxiety you get because of that comes out in the interview, right? If you waited for a long time in the interview, that comes out. And many times what happens is the employer recognizes that you are desperate. And then probably you can be taken for granted. Okay, so now we're going into about how to take care of your CV. What are the things that you can talk about? Okay, applying for all jobs using the same CV. There's a mistake that we do is that we use the same CV, and you can find this on Google, you can find it everywhere. I'm going to highlight the fact that one of the mistakes that we do is you apply for different jobs using the same CV, whereas one CV does not suit all the jobs. Probably you are multi-skilled. So you might want to tweak your CV before you, probably are going to apply for a different job. And that's important too. Spelling mistakes and spell check issues. Many times what happens, people, when they take up the CV, the first thing they see is curriculum vitae. How is that spelled? Oh, there's a spelling mistake right out there. Then there's another spelling mistake. Then there's another spelling mistake. If you are applying for in a region where English is an important language, then your CV is made in English, and that language of medium of communication is important, then voila, you have to be very, very careful about spelling mistakes. Some people don't know how to spell curriculum vitae. They just make a CV and they apply for a job. I'm asking you, did you not see that? Did you not see that red line or green line on MS Word when you actually type that out? So if you are ignoring something on the first part of your CV, the first word of your CV, the first mistake when you go for a job, how can I expect you to correct the mistakes in your job? Right? So I'm already judging you there. So ensure that your CV has spell check, spell all the time, run it through somebody, right? There's, even in English, you have British English, you have American English. Some spellings, you can say organization, spelling with an S, spelling with a Z, spelling with a Z. So Americans use Z and Z, British use only S. So these are things you have to keep in mind. So even if it shows wrong, it's still right, it's all right. But when you have to check, go on Google, go on dictionary, go on, you have the internet as the biggest tool. So go and check that. It's very, very important to do that. Inconsistent font. When you do a CV, it's very important to understand that your font has to be consistent, right? So one font you use Times Roman, then you use Calibri, then you use, okay, whatever, Arial or whatever, and then you use a font, fancy cursive writing. That's CV, badly done. Don't do that. The only font that could probably be, that is good for CVs is Arial. We used to use Times Roman, but it's outdated. Now we use Calibri. And you are allowed to play with 2 sizes of fonts in your CV, 2 to 3 sizes of fonts, not more than that. So 10, 11, 12. These are the sizes of fonts that you can use in your CV. So if you've not done that, then it's go back and check if it's done properly. Updated phone number. Many times people forget to update a new number on their CV. They keep sending out the same CV, but the phone number is not working. The address is not working. How does a recruiter contact you? Check for these things before you do, right? Professional email addresses. Okay, so what is your email address? I love eating out at gmail.com. Wow, what an email address that we have. Does not show, I mean, I don't care whether, you know, how it is, or smartbeautyforyou at gmail.com. Okay, great. Is this a professional email address that a recruiter wants to see on your CV? Probably not. So ideally, have a professional email address which speaks about you as a professional. That's very important to do that. And I'm telling you these things because people are still doing this. I get CVs like this, right? Playboyforyou at gmail.com. I mean, why apply for a job in a company if you're a playboy? Am I looking for you to be a playboy? I'm sorry, no. So these are the things that people neglect. People are looking out for these things. So understand that that's important, right? Then what about your core competencies? Competencies, we've spoken about this in the previous webinar. Competencies is your ability, your talent. What are you good at? That needs to be highlighted, right? And that's important to understand that this is, if you don't highlight your core competencies, there's a problem. Now, what's the next? I'm going to show this on my CV. I'll take you through my CV so you'll understand how it is done. And honestly, my CV was also not done just by me. It was worked through, people helped me a lot in making my CV. A friend of mine put his efforts. Another friend of mine has put his own efforts. So people helped me to make my CV back then. And it's only a streamlined version of what I had in the past. So I've gone through feedbacks. I've asked people to work on my CV. So today I know how to make other people's CVs, but I always ask for feedback. So I'll show you how formatting needs to be done in a CV. What are people looking for? Not having a professional picture. Now, in some parts of the world, you don't need to have a professional picture, but in some parts of the world, you need to have. Now, in this part of the world, or in India, or in the Middle East, you can still get people asking you for pictures, professional size, passport size pictures, etc. Ensure you don't have, you know, pictures in your swimwear that you did in last summer. Please have pictures that are professional, right? Either in formal suit or in that shows that you're a professional, whatever wear professional attire that you're going to be working. Ensure that less is more. Some of the things that I've been told is do not have long CVs. People don't have the time for it, right? When I made a CV, I was struggling to make my CV into less than my mentors or my seniors or my friends and people that no, people don't have time for the long CV. Having less is more. So how do we do that? So I'm going to The best part of this webinar is you're going to get a handout after the webinar is over on how to make a CV. We've designed a document with all the points. This is only points. So I'll share that with you. Not sending, right? Many times what you do is you have the CV, but you're not sending it to the right people. You're not probably sending it to HR, you're sending it to somebody else. So unless you have the right email address for the job application, ensure you do that. Now, this is a diagram which I have picked up from the internet, which says you need to have an e-draw chart before you go for an interview. Okay, e-draw is an app. It tells you how to tackle, like you can see on screen, what are the areas I have tackled before I apply for a job. There are 5 different core areas, right? You talk about the company. You talk about your knowledge and networking. What are your interests, right? It's important to know that if sports or politics or economics, what interests you, that comes out in your interview. This is just an e-draw chart, how you can prepare for your job interview. Now, the best part of this, it's there in your handbook, and we will share it. And whatever previous points are there, you will get the presentation as well, and I will share it with you. If you want to, you can still take a screenshot. Somebody's asking for the previous presentation. Shambhavi will share all the documents on email. If you don't get it, you can still get in touch with me on social media, WhatsApp. I'll share my number with you. We always end everything once you've attended the webinar, but please don't expect it to happen immediately today, because we have editing work to do. We have to get you all the webinar content and send you and upload things after this, and so it'll take us at least 3 to 4 days to send you all the content. But all of you have these things already listed if you've taken notes down, if you've taken the handbook. Okay, so previous points, we're done with that. All right, now assessments and psychometric tests. Now, I'm sharing with you 4 different types of tests we do in recruitment and HR. Okay, the first thing is a technical assessment. A technical assessment is done to find out technical attitude, technical aptitude. What does that mean? That means when in HR, we have 2 types of ability we test you on. We have 2 types of competencies we test you on. There is a technical side and the technical competency. Then there is the behavioral side and the behavioral competency. What does that mean? Now, technical competencies are competencies that are extremely important for you to do your job. For example, if you're a graphic designer, you need to know how to do graphic design. If you're an IT person, you need to know what it takes to be in the IT. If you're a doctor, you need to have the technical qualification to be a doctor, right? If you're an engineer, you need to know whatever. If you're in civil or aviation or chemical engineering, you need to know all of the tech. These are called as technical competencies. What are behavioral competencies? The behaviors expected at your job role. Now, if you are an engineer and you are also having a project and you have 2 or 3 people under you, do you know how to manage these people? These require certain behavioral tests. Now, that's where the recruiter or the HR is trying to assess your personality. So we call them as aptitude tests. We call them as behavioral assessment. We use even psychometric tests. What are psychometric tests? It is assessing your personality. If your personality suits the culture of our company, if your personality, your behavior suits the role that you're going to be in, right? Now, these are various assessments and tests we do in human resources to understand where you stand. Now, how can you tackle these? Read about them online, right? Now, we don't have the time to cover all of them. Now, psychometric tests also involve tests like we say MBTI, which is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It tells you about your personality. You can note it down. It's called MBTI. I'm typing it on the chat box. It's Myers-Briggs type indicator. You also have something called Thomas profiling, which is also a personality test. Now, these are helping you to ace your interviews using personality assessments when you apply for certain jobs. These are given to you to understand your profile, personality, whether you're going to be a leader, how will you behave. And remember, attitude over aptitude. No matter how good you are in your job, it's your attitude that matters, because people always take people who are good at jobs, but who are more positive at their work. Somebody can be excellent and can be a very negative person and not flexible. For me, I would want an above average performer with a great attitude. I could have an excellent performer with a bad attitude. I would go for a slightly above average performer with a great attitude, because sometimes We can train you on technical competencies to some extent. We can give you the support. We can do all of that. But the attitude in itself, the positive attitude comes from within, right? So it's important to do that. What we train you on behavioral competencies is how to be a leader. How can you be a supervisor? How can you be a people manager? How can you, understand what resilience is? What is stress management? What is time and priority management? These are things we can train you sometimes on. But what we do always tell you is that if you don't have an open mind, you don't have a positive attitude, then I might not be interested in hiring you. So always remember aptitude. Aptitude means the mental capabilities, how good you are with your job and how smart you are. So this is where the IQ comes in, intelligent quotient, right? We say this is where the IQ comes in. But your behavior shows EQ. It shows AQ, adversity quotient. We spoke about that. It shows SQ. We spoke about social quotient a few weeks ago. So all of this is something that we are trying to assess you when I recruit you. So these are some of the tests that you will see. You can Google them. You'll find a lot of information on them. I'm only giving you certain points that you can keep in mind. All information cannot be given to you in 1.5 hours, right? I'm sure you agreed with that. So what's the next thing that we have? Post-interview plan. After the interview, what do? Drop an email or a message with thanks and gratitude. Always tell people, okay, it was thank you. You gave me a great opportunity. And whether you get selected or not, do not hold any remorse. You can follow up over text messages, emails, or even LinkedIn. If you have the company's LinkedIn profile, if you have the person's LinkedIn profile who contacted you, you can follow up. If it's a recruitment consultant, you can follow up. Sometimes don't keep following up. I've had a candidate who followed up every single day, applied for every single job in the company, and nagged me on LinkedIn to an extent that the company decided to block them on LinkedIn, right? Now, don't do that, because you'd lose your chances of being employed because a person is getting frustrated with you. Do not follow up immediately after the interview. Give it a couple of days, right? Always ensure that you give a couple of days before the interview has been complete, and ask them if you have another round of interview, all of that. And remember, I told you last time I told you, things we don't share with you. Sometimes there is no another interview. We just said, we don't want this candidate. We want to move on with another candidate. Okay, most companies do not send up a follow email if you're not selected. That's the truth. Don't get disappointed if you don't get an email. A lot of people are not sending out emails on rejection. And this is one of the most unprofessional things that human resources does, but that's the truth, right? And I'm not going to tell you that it's all rosy out there. In case you're a student right now, in case you're looking for jobs right now, do not get disappointed. Do not get rejected, because you're not the only one to be rejected. Rejections happen to all of us. No matter how good you are with your job, no matter how qualified you are, you can still get rejected, right? I have been rejected so many times for who I am. For the race, people tell me, we want a Western national. We want a native English-speaking national to hire this job. Sometimes people even want women over men in the job that I do. But does that put me off as a rejection? Yes, it does. But I'm going to keep thinking about it. No, I don't want to give up, right? Because rejection is something that we all have to face in life. And it can happen at any time. You get rejected by school teachers sometimes. You get rejected by your friends. You get rejected in a relationship. You propose somebody's not willing to spend their life with you. You get rejections at different fronts. But don't get bogged down. Job rejection is just one of those rejections. It does not define who you are, right? It does not define your capability. Remember that all these motivational memes that you see about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all of these people who are school dropout, that's the truth. They were rejected at one point, but they didn't allow that rejection to define them. So why do you allow your rejections to define you, right? If you get that reject email, I can tell you 100 reject emails that I have got from companies when I'm not being hired for who I am. But here I am trying to do something on my own. If I were to get bogged down of every rejection and tell that my self-esteem is going to be defined by a recruiter who's sitting far away, who's not even seen me, who's not even decided upon the talent that I have, then that's the loss of the company, right? I always think that if people have not invested in getting to know you, or they've not seen through your talent or the achievements or the things that you have, then there is a problem, all right? Then they don't deserve you. But then take it with a pinch of salt. Find out what you can do. See what feedback you need to take. See if you need to work on your qualifications. What is it that you did not, why did you miss that opportunity? Were you overconfident? Was your CV not good enough? Reflect. Reflections are important, right? But don't get negative about those reflections. Don't be bogged down by those reflections. That is important too, right? Do not hold remorse if you're not selected. Many companies rejected me and many companies selected me. But if I still hold things against them, I probably will be, holding on to things and say, oh, you guys didn't select me. Now you want my CV again. After 2 or 3 years, a company will write back to you asking for your CV or something. They would have seen you and they're like, oh, I applied before. I'm not going to, no, companies don't care about it. You'll be the loser. So what you need to do is to let go of the past and see if you can start afresh, right? The art of letting go, how difficult that is. You hold on to things, you keep remorse against people and all of that. The art of letting go. I'll tell you of an example. I'm going to probably be towards the end of the session. So I'm going to tell you of an example. Years ago, when I was still working in the Gulf, and I was interviewed by a very big company. I'm not going to tell you which brand it is. You would be surprised to know what a big company. This is a pan-India company. And the corporate office was in one of the cities in India. It was actually in Bangalore, from where I come. And I was told, I had an online interview with them, and I planned my entire holiday before an interview with this organization, right? And this is one of the top most premium retail companies in the world, and they have a franchise in India, which is pan-India. I can't imagine that when I walk into the interview, I was made to wait for 45 minutes as a candidate, right? It does not look good on the company, right? I have flown all the way from the UAE, from United Arab Emirates, go and meet this employer and spend a couple of weeks in India to finish my rounds of interviews. This person has just 45 minutes, 1 hour almost. And I interview and I go to the managing director, who's probably not more than 35 years of age, right? Young. What are you thinking? Okay, the guy's going to respect you. He's going to treat you. And then he asks me, have you carried a copy of your CV? I am asking myself, I flew all the way to come and attend your interview. You couldn't download my CV and have it printed before I came for this interview? What volumes? It speaks volumes of the way you guys operate and run this company. That's what I was thinking about. And then they didn't even have a format of the interview. Somebody interviews me, asked me to wait. And I was interviewed for a position which needed sales skills, and they did not tell me that. And then he tells me, why don't you take this water bottle and sell it to me? This is a chairman of a company or a managing director of a company wanting to hire somebody at a pan-India level. This job requires for me to handle this position all over India as a region by itself. And he's asking me to sell a water bottle. Now look at the kind of interview. This person was not prepared for the interview. And I was so bogged down by it. I carried it in me for months together because it kind of ruined me. But I told myself that this is going to be the world. You're going to have to expect people to be remorse to you. You're going to have it all there, but then it doesn't define who I am. And if I'd let those moments, those people define who I am in a job interview or get bogged down by those things, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you sharing my experiences today. So all I'm telling you is that do what it takes, but don't get put off by rejection, because you're not the only one to get rejected. There are many people today getting rejected, not even getting reply emails from human resources. And that happens. But then don't let that define you. Okay. So let's look at the frequently asked questions. Is it important to have a cover letter? Yes, no, it depends. Okay, I don't like to read long cover letters. I straight away go into the CV of the person, because a cover letter is usually just a cover. It doesn't really tell me who you are, your experiences properly, because you're trying to present yourself on the cover letter. And if you're designing a cover letter, if it's important, you think it is important, you want to send it across, make it short and crisp. Don't write your life history. Nobody's interested. Nobody has time to read your life history. So please keep it very short and crisp. You have various formats on Google to give you a good cover letter. You can go there. All right. So you can find that out, how big a CV should be. Right. I've always been told keep it short. It's very important, but 2 to 3 pages is a bare minimum. Okay, I mean, or a bare maximum, let's put it that way. Minimum, people can have a 1-page CV too. If your experience is just like 2 years or 4 years, keep your CV as less as possible, but use the keywords that are important. Why is it that we do not get reject? Sometimes you don't get reject emails. It's just the way the company operates, right? We don't have a reason why that happens. Yep. So these are some of the questions people ask. Are all job advertisements for real? No, they're not for real. some job advertisements are fake. For example, there are people who are putting fake advertisements of companies right now and saying, send the CV to the CEO of my company. My CEO is not interested in seeing CVs right now. It's the HR that is interested in seeing. So people are doing these kind of things. So analyze the job advertisement before you send it. There are fake jobs posted online. So you have to be very careful what you're doing. How do we respond when someone asks you money in favor for a job? Many people ask you, many consultants ask you to pay money. Many recruiters ask you to pay money. I would say don't do that, because that's not going to probably help. Okay, my personal experience, don't give people a lot of money, because they'll probably help you to find a job. They might give you the same link, but remember they're doing it to 100 other people too, right? So don't be so naive and spend your money on that. So be very careful if you're going to be spending. Don't spend money. There are a lot of scammers asking you to make CVs, asking you to do that. But be very legit. Who are you going to when you want to make a CV? You're paying $5 or $10 or 1,000 rupees or whatever that you're paying to make a CV. Ensure that you have made enough research on the person who's going to help you to make the CV. There are a lot of people who do it. I do it legitimately. I help people design CVs for a very nominal fee, and I do that. So I'm not saying it's all bad, but be careful. But when somebody tells you, pay and I'll get you a job, it's not happening. Don't do that. Okay, so be very careful. Do all companies charge candidates for employment? No, not all companies charge candidates for employment, but some people do, especially if you're working in India, you're looking for a job outside India, yes, they do. But do not pay money and get duped. Please ensure you do enough research about the company you're going to be working for. There is a job offer. There are many instances where people roll out job offers, take the money. When you land in that country, like for example, you go to Dubai, or you come here, or you go to Singapore, or any of these countries, and then you realize that there is no company that is existing like that at all, and you've lost all your money. So please be very careful when you deal with job consultants. Who are you? How can we deal with consultancies? Dealing with consultancies and dealing with recruiters, actual recruiters inside companies are a different ballgame. Consultants do it for a charge. They shouldn't be charging you. Ideally, they should charge only the company. If they're charging you as a candidate, then I don't think it's a legit company. I mean, I don't see, ethically it is wrong to charge a job seeker who's unemployed. So we don't do it. The companies need to pay for it. So this is how you deal with job consultants. We can talk more about it and all of that. So yeah, so these are some of the FAQs. So that's a little bit about what I want to share with you. We had the national anthem, we had a lot of that, so we've crossed our time limit. So it's important that you, I hope I've shared all the points that I wanted to share with you. Now, what do you get today? You will be getting 2 presentations from us for registering the webinar. You also get the handbook, which I've already shared with you. Some of you are not able to download it. We'll email that to you as well. You'll get 2 certificates for both the webinars that you've registered, right? So you will get 2 different certificates for that. And the best part is our next webinar is going to be on fitness. And I think all of you who are there online have 1 free passes to the next webinar. So we said the first 50 registrants will get the free pass to the next webinar, which is going to be on nutrition and fitness. So we'll be talking about that. Some of the people who have helped us in getting this webinar done for you is in front of you in the screen. So thank you, everybody. It's Aditya is my marketing company, digital marketing company, which is my lead catalyst, is based in India. Mustafa. Then we've recently started some people to join us as a community build-up. And these are people who are joining us to help and spread the messages wide and far. We're going to be hiring people as interns to work with us. And we're also going to be hiring brand ambassadors as well, right? So we're going to look at for people. If you're interested, you can write back to us. You can WhatsApp me and tell me if you're interested in working for us in some format. I'm going to give you my WhatsApp number and you can get it. So that's my WhatsApp number, right? Now, I would like to thank Mantra, I would like to thank Sinju, Hussein, Batul, Tasneem. These are people who voluntarily come and help us with translations, with content, with a lot of things. And we're trying to build a big network. And we're going to be having 50 people in our first network. And if you're willing to join, you can WhatsApp me, you can Instagram me. We're building a community where we can take the word to others. We're also looking for a few interns who can join us in the work that we do, who can build content, etc., etc. Very soon you will see all those feelers going outside on social media. You can text us if you want to join us in this community build-up. We're looking for people in the Middle East, and we're looking for people in India as well. So we're looking for people who can market, who can sell our services, because we need money, we need funds to keep this going, because right now all the funding is happening from our side, and we need funds to take the message outside. So FUNDS, and we can have fun in this program as well. In turn, what do you get from us? You get all the coaching and webinars for free. All right, you get to attend all of that. You get personal coachings and networking. We teach you digital marketing. We teach you all of that. So I've already started advertising this. And if you're interested in learning a business model, in learning what it takes to be in the corporate, how to build resilience, how to stay positive, attend motivational events, attend all our webinars for free, and in turn you work for us and become our brand ambassador. So, and build content for us, take the marketing aspect, and by selling, you also get a commission. If you sell each of these paid webinars, you also get a commission. So if you're interested in something like that, you can write back to us. We're looking for those people. Now, what happens here is, I'm going to talk about the next webinar, which is important for you to understand. I think you can see the link for the next webinar is already live. The people on this webinar, you don't need to register because you get a free pass already. We'll be sending you the details on your email. So you can do that. But this is again a 99 rupees and a $5 webinar that is going to go live right now. Fortunately, I have our guest speaker, Jigyasa Gupta, for our fitness and nutrition online. So I think Jiggy is online today with us. Jiggy, do you want to speak up?
Hey everybody. Hey Immanuel. Thank you for an excellent webinar. I've been hearing this and it's great. Quite a lot of learnings. I have been into the same industry, but yes, a small little bit of things that we learn and hear from you is always encouraging. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jiggy. I hope we'll have fun in the next webinar next week, because we're going to be talking all about what Jigyasa has been doing her life. She's dedicated her life into fitness and nutrition and empowering other people, just like what I do from a mental perspective. She's transforming lives, and we are so lucky to have her agree on this webinar and do it for us, because she's also my coach and my fitness consultant. And all of you get a free pass to this webinar, and we'll be looking forward for more people to registering on this. So if you would like to market this webinar, please write into me. You get a commission if you would like to market the webinar. We pay a commission charges we give you the commission after we receive the funds from these webinars and these events. So if you guys are interested, you are already getting a free pass, but you can market this on behalf of us, so we can take the bigger message to all of us. So thank you, everybody. Now I'm going to open it up for any Q&A. If you have any question answer sessions, we can probably talk about some Q&As regarding to what we spoke about. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up. Any questions?
Sir,
yes,
sir, will you share your CV?
Oh, yes. I was supposed to do that. I'm so sorry. Let me take you back to my CV. I think you guys can still see the screen. If not, let's see if I can take you through my CV. I did have it over here. Okay. So that's my CV. Can everybody see it? Please say yes or no, so I know that you guys can see it. Okay, great. You guys can see my CV right now. Now, if you see my CV, I start with what I have been doing, and okay. Right. I think you're not able to see it. Okay, I think you should be able to see my CV right now. Okay, so if you look at how I've done my CV, I have my name on the top, my address, etc., etc. I have my professional photograph. I know it's a little boring. You've seen this photograph a long time, but I've not really applied for jobs in a long time. So if you can see this, You can see how I've brought out what I specialize in, which is HR, which is learning and development, which is organizational development. This is when I'm applying for jobs, and you can look at the core competencies. Excuse me. You look at the summary over there, how the summary is written. You can look at the core competencies and executed skills, all of that over here. Okay. My education and what I've done. I've got an international diploma from the UK in human resources. I've done a diploma in training and development in India, and I have a bachelor's in hotel management. So I work in the hospitality industry, and I apply my HR skills in the hospitality industry. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, that's what I've done. So you can also, this is an open document, guys. I am free to, I mean, if you want this to be shared, I can send it to you. Over here, I've also got my HR skills. What are the certifications I have from UK, from UAE, from the United States, all the trainings that I've done from various parts of the, internationally. I've done that. I've also done regionally what I've done. This is the current organization that I'm fully employed with in the Middle East, which I usually don't mention in my webinars because what I do is on my personal accord. I don't represent my company, but you can look at how I have highlighted all the skills that I have in human resources in terms of what I'm doing. So you have HR, you have organizational strategy, you have talent resourcing, you have learning and capability development, quality management, and I also take care of hardcore hospitality operational support, which is to develop learning and development interventions, how to train people in the hospitality. Hospitality includes hotels, restaurants, cruises, cruise liners, airlines, all this comes under the hospitality. It's not, hospitals do not usually come under hospitality, but yes, they are in a broader perspective from the hospital in the hospitality industry. But we train all of these people on customer service, on product, on designing manuals and designing all of that. You can see here some of the big companies that I've worked with. This is the company I was talking to you about, which is the largest retail conglomerate. Before that, I worked with a company called Jollibee, which is from the Philippines. And then I worked with hotels throughout. But if you look at this is a place where I served the Royal Palace in Abu Dhabi. I was an acting consultant for the royal family of the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. So I was training the employees who used to serve the king himself in Abu Dhabi. So this was something we did. Then I started my careers, of course, with Spinneys. This is a huge company in Abu Dhabi. My first job, of course, was in India. I worked with ITC in Sheraton and luxury hotels in India. Then my personal details come here. Honors, I worked a lot on the corporate social responsibility front. So I did a lot on being, I was nominated for the Green Hotelier of the Year in 2010. Out of the 5 nominees in the whole of Middle East, North Africa, I worked on a lot of green initiatives, environment, health, and safety. So I was nominated for the award. I didn't win the award, but I was the top 5 nominations. You can still Google my name and say Immanuel Williams, Green Hotelier of the Year. You will still get those articles online. I was also shortlisted for an award called the Arabian Corporate Social Responsibility. So that's there. And then my personal details are there below my, I keep this very, and references upon request. So a brief idea on how I did my CV. If you look at it, it talks a lot about me, but also it is short. I couldn't have done this without my friends and my colleagues. I mean, there's a lot of people who did this for me, and I'm really grateful for them. But I try to bring this out the best. So what you see is a streamlined version of somebody who will help me do my CV in the past, and all of that. So we're done over here. So I think we're going to wind up. And if you have any questions, we can still talk about, and I hope you enjoy the webinars. There's a series of webinars, and I hope we can, Jiggy and myself can give you a good amount of information in our forthcoming webinar. So any other questions before we wind up? We had in fact told you that this webinar will go on to 1.5 to 2 hours. So because we had the intention of singing the national anthem, etc., etc. So I hope this went on well. So any other last questions before I call off the session? That's what it is. You can follow me on social media if you're not following me. If you're already following me, then great. You have my WhatsApp number to connect with me directly. You have my Instagram, you have my LinkedIn. All of you are there. Most of you are there on my social media. So I don't see any last minute questions. So what I'm going to say is thank you everyone for making it to the webinar, and continue to support us. And of course, it'll be great to have you guys. Some of you are consistently coming. I like Prahlad, there's Raga, there's Saumya, there's these people who are consistently coming and helping us. and everybody else who's made this webinar a possibility. Thank you guys. So I hope you enjoy the webinar, and I will see you next Saturday if you're in for the next webinar already. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Immanuel.
Thank you, Jiggy. Please go and put a review on our Instagram page, on our Facebook review page. It'll be great if you can do that. You know, you help build this community more larger. This is just beyond more than 99 rupees. And I hope you found the value for the money you've invested, so we can build this community more bigger. And we need youngsters like you to do that. So, so yes, so we need people to do that. Write to us, tell us how you feel. It makes us feel good, right? When we feel good, we can give more to people that deserve. So, so please do that. Please leave a review on Instagram on the post where this series was posted this week. You can leave it on the English version or the Arabic version, doesn't matter. But you can still remember that I am in the Middle East, so I do both versions. And yes, I have people from all over India who don't speak Hindi, so I have to speak in English. So all of that. So I've repeated this many times. I'm willing to converse with you in Hindi in private, but please don't ask me to speak in Hindi during the webinar, because there are plenty of people who attend one webinar who do not speak the language. So I'm really sorry if some parts of it is something that you don't understand, but I'll be happy to cater to each of your questions individually in Hindi. My Hindi is not my strong point, but I will try. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. And it was great having you in the webinar. I'll see you again next week. Fitness is great. And I think it's the #1 thing that keeps me going out of all my problems in my life and helps me build resilience. And Jiggy has played a very important role in my life in getting me understanding fitness. And she's done, and for Aditya as well, and for a lot of other people, she's transformed. So she'll be happy to share her experience with you, and give us an opportunity once more to be of service to you. All right. So thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.